everyone. My name is Diana Mercuri and I'm with Mancuso Show Management. And by now you've probably seen a little bit of me over the week as I've been doing lots of interviews. But today I'm so excited to be interviewing someone that I've worked with several times with our fashion shows, Vickie Clontz, who is an award-winning designer and author and artist and instructor. Vickie has been sewing since her mother first introduced her to the needle. And her pattern company, Annie's Keepsakes, we'll be talking a little bit later, has over 100 original designs for sewing, quilting, home decor, and wearables. Vickie loves creating unique designs and finds much inspiration in the nature and the countryside around her. Vickie, so thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great, Diana. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to be able to share some of my work with your audience.
Yes, I'm excited too, because I know your art pieces very well as being part of the fashion shows that we've had in the past. And so I am very excited for everyone to know a little bit about you, about your business, and what you're doing these days. Why don't we start by talking a little bit about your background?
Okay. Well, I was raised on a farm in the country, and I grew up roaming the hills, walking in the woods, riding horses. We always had animals. We had cows, and we had a little pet goat named Hootie one time, peacocks, chickens, dogs, cats, all kinds of animals. And so I loved animals. And I also walked a lot in the woods, and so nature, was a big inspiration for me. I spent a lot of time alone because it wasn't like a neighborhood. I grew up with my cousins too, but I spent a lot of time alone. So I had a lot of opportunities to grow my imagination. And so I don't know if that was a good thing or not, but it still comes into play today. And my parents always encouraged me to go into the arts. My dad painted, and he also played the guitar, and he was a computer programmer. And my mom taught me to sew when I was a little girl, when I was like 5 years old. And so and she did crafts too. So they always encouraged me to go into the arts and things. And by the time I was in high school, I was making my own clothes. Then I went to college and majored in clothing design. And when I finished college, I worked in the industry, the clothing industry. I started out grading patterns, making all the different sizes, and worked my way up to pattern making and then design. And then I got married and had kids, and I wanted to do something because we traveled a lot. We were military and we moved every 3 years. So rather than shuffle my kids to a babysitter, a different person all the time, I wanted to do something where I could stay home and make money. So that's when I started my company, Annie's Keepsakes.
And what is Annie for?
Oh, that's my mother's name and my daughter's name. And so this was started 31 years ago this year. It's hard to believe. And so Vickie has kind of a retro feel, but I felt back then vintage, was the, big trend. And so Annie had a nice vintage ring to it. And so
that's really special. It's for your mother and for your daughter. That's really nice. Well, it sounds like your mother raised you right in sewing, and now we're here where you make these beautiful garments and felted jewelry. How did you get into creating all of those felted, art pieces?
Okay, so 20 years ago this year, I had made a number of patterns, and I decided to try a trade show. So I went to Spring Quilt Market in New Jersey, and I met the wool felt company that I still work with, National Nonwovens. And so they gave me some wool felt squares to play around with. And I remember it was 20 years ago because I made a project. I did an ad for a trade publication that came out in September, which happened to be 9/11. And so the ad didn't do anything, but it started that year. I started a good relationship with this wool felt company. And so they send me product whenever they come out with new colors of wool felt or anything new, they send me new product. Well, they had done the wool felt and they decided to try doing wool fibers. And so they sent me some of their wool fibers and said, play around and see what you can do with this. And so I did, and that's how I started. I started out needle felting, simple little. I was doing like little Monet scenes on little hearts for a trade show they were doing a make it and take it with, and then I just started researching on YouTube and different places, and so I'm kind of self-taught. I'm not a great student. I love teaching, but I'm not a great student. But I like to figure out things and learn on my own. And so I started out needle felting and then tried wet felting. And that's really my passion. I love wet felting.
That is really cool. So before we go into, what is felting and how it's done, you had mentioned that your business, Annie's Keepsakes, is celebrating a milestone. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, 31 years of business this year. And, I had thought last year for 30 years of business, I had thought I would do something really special. And then, the pandemic shutdown hit. So, but I really attribute my, because so many businesses have gone under, maybe they've just decided to retire, we're all getting older. But I really attribute my longevity to being flexible, trying new things. I like to do a lot of different things. If you notice in my designs, I have folk art, I have, classic vintage, and I have contemporary things. I've got wearables, really something for everybody. The felting, I love. And so being flexible. And I think also, Dinah, that God has really given me the gift of, I love to share with people, whether it's through my patterns, like you said, I've got over 100 now. I recently did this pattern, the pandemic pant.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's just a nice, I'm known for quick and easy pant that you can wear at home when you're Zoom meeting or whatever. And, or whether it's through books. I've done, these 3 books for leisure arts, and I just finished my 4th one 2 weeks ago. So yay.
Great.
Yeah. And or teaching, I love to teach, and I love to I can present my humble little ideas or projects to students, and then they will use their personal creative artistic abilities and talents and do something amazing with what I give them to do. And so
isn't that so rewarding?
Yeah, I love seeing what they do. So,
So can you tell us, in case there's some out there that don't know what felting is or how it's done, can you tell us a little bit about felting, how you do it, and what you can create?
Sure. And so basically, felting is just the process of matting or pressing together fibers. And wool fibers are really the best at this because the wool fibers have little scales up and down the shaft. And when they're exposed to either needle felting or heat, water, and agitation and soap, they mat together, they marry for life, and they never come apart. And so if you've ever washed a wool sweater, whether on purpose or by accident, and it shrinks down to like Barbie size, that sweater will never get big again. And so that's a form of felting. Just like this little bag I made out of a wool sweater. This was the body. And then this was sleeves from another wool sweater that I sewed up. And this was a class I taught at Mid-Atlantic, the marbling on wool a few years ago. That was a fun class. So that's one way. A lot of people knit and crochet and then wash in the washer and dryer, and it shrinks it down. And so that's felting. And then there's wet felting, which is my passion. I love wet felting. And so that's when you just add soap and water, heat and agitation to wool fibers, and you can do all these wonderful things. There's all kinds of fibers. These are some hand-dyed fibers. merinos, very soft, by Smoky Mountain Fibers. She's on Etsy. And these are a very fine and soft fiber, which is great for Nuno felting. Nuno is Japanese for cloth, and that's how we do our scarves. Or you can get the undyed fibers, and this is a coarser fiber. You know, there's over 100 breeds of sheep, just like there's so many dogs, there's so many sheep too. And so this would be a Corriedale. It's a coarser fiber from a different sheep. And then you can also, you know, get them dyed. Then there's curly mohair. This has been dyed, and these are from the goats. And there's synthetic sparkly Angelina. Can you see that?
That's amazing.
That's
amazing that there's so many different kinds.
There are, and they all have different qualities, you know, that you can do. And so
what can you make with these then?
Oh, and so you can make pre-felt. This is wet felted fibers, just felted together. And then you can use them to make like the little pre-felt scarf over there in the corner. There, that one. Cut them out and then felt that onto something else.
And we also have showing that, you know, that you can make jewelry and all sorts of different things, you know, necklaces.
Yeah,
earrings,
all of that. Yeah.
Hats,
this is made from
art.
Fibers. That. Yeah. I've got it all on display. Last year we did the wool geode zipper necklace at Mid-Atlantic. And so I've got pictures of that on my blog, on my website, www.annieskeepsakes.com. And so viewers can look at that if they want to. And they were all just gorgeous.
It's really awesome. And I think the biggest thing is that, you know, with the felted wool, you can create so many different art pieces.
You can.
You know, just by showing of what images you sent me, between, you know, putting in, and what about putting into quilting?
Oh yeah. And so I have some quilts here. So this was one that I did. And see the sunrise up there? Those are wool fibers that I dyed in strawberry Kool-Aid. And I've got directions on my website on how to do that, how to dye wool with Kool-Aid and how to dye wool with Easter egg dye, because those things, the vegetable dyes, are fiber reactive. They bond with the protein fibers. And so I had done this for a challenge. This is called My Grandmother's Garden, or My Grandmother's House. And I had pieced the background here because I sew pretty good. I've been sewing for a long time. And I thought, well, I can hide that because I had this great sunset right here. And I thought, well, I can hide that same. Well, you couldn't. You know, it stuck out like a sore thumb. And so I went back and needle felted the beautiful pink clouds at sunset over the seam. And so you can kind of see when you needle felt, you know, the fibers do show through on the back a little bit.
That's beautiful.
So also, this is needle felted. This was from a picture from my backyard on a little cow farm that I lived at. And this was the silhouette. And so you can see, you can always also sew on your felted pieces. This was, I free motion, because it was winter. So I free motion stitched some of the little bare branches that were on there. But this is like some silk from the sunset and different fibers. And then I couched some hand spun wool fibers around the edge to give it a little finishing touch.
That's beautiful. So definitely you can make a lot of things with the wool felt. So you are teaching for us at Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival online, and you are teaching a wool felt flower workshop. Can you tell us a little bit about that workshop and what you'll be doing there?
Yes, and so for this workshop, this is simple, fun sewing. And so we'll be taking wool felt and we'll be using just a few basic techniques and making lots of fun little flowers. Just a few, because it's like a 3-hour class, February the 24th from 10 to 1. So with just a few techniques, you can learn to make all these flowers. I don't know if you can see. This is the pattern, there, right there. That's the pattern. And so the students will get the pattern for the wall hanging, which, you know, they can frame it if they want, they can put a quilted border around it or what have you. But there's so many other things that you can use these flowers for. We were just talking about some right before we came on. You can use them for a smaller wall hanging. And there's, you know, there's other colors. These were the Wool Felt Company's new colors, but you can do jewel tones. You can do traditional colors. You know, people have these nice traditional colors in their house. Maybe they'd rather use that. You can use them for a little girl's hairband, maybe for a wedding, to decorate a frame. I love those big letters they have, you know, so it can have a contemporary look, or it can have a more traditional, or, you know, a festive, a happy, bright colored look. So I have
Definitely a lot.
yeah, and I'm offering kits, but certainly students, if they'd rather order some or use their own wool felt, they can. But I have over 90 colors of wool felt on my website that they're welcome to order from too, if they can choose their whole personal colorway.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really, you know, fun class where you can create something in the 3 hours and then
Yeah.
use it for a million different projects. We were talking about using the pastel colors for the headband for a flower girl, or maybe a sash or a
Yeah.
little purse.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of different things. So it definitely sounds
Yeah.
like a fun class.
And it's very relaxing, and it's perfect for a Zoom class because, you know, we're all stuck at home. You know, not everybody, but we're kind of stuck at home. So it's and there's a lot of anxiety out there right now. So it's very relaxing and soothing. You know, science, they've proved scientifically doing handwork is good. It's, you know, releases something in your brain that's supposed to calm you down. So I think we could all use I think we could all use a little bit of that.
Well, switching gears, I want to talk about one of my favorite things that I've worked with you in the past is with the fashion shows. So you've presented 2 fashion shows, one at our Pennsylvania National Quilt Extravaganza, and then one at our Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival in February. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was just phenomenal, Diana. It was very different. Each fashion show was very different, but it was so much fun. The first fashion show that you were in, you and your son, we had 4 models, and and I think there were like 25 ensembles or 20 or something. It was just insane trying to get everybody changed, and I had all these felted accessories, the jewelry and the scarves and everything. And I remember one time you came out and you were just wearing a beret and a backpack or something, and we were like talking for 5 minutes about this thing, waiting for the next model to get out on the runway. But it was so much fun. And your son Julian just stole the show that day. He was like 3 years old, and he was
yes, he had so much fun, and it was really cool, and really you know, every ensemble was beautifully put together. You know, we're showing some of those images to everyone now of some of your work. You have that long green gown with the butterfly shawl. You know, what was your inspiration behind some of your ensembles that you presented in the fashion show?
Oh, well, art, you know, art is just a real inspiration for me. I love classical art. And I had the opportunity to teach in France a year and a half ago, and I got to go to Paris for the weekend and see Monet. And, you know, and I love Monet, and Monet was a lot of inspiration for a lot of my pieces. But what I really loved was the Dolly Museum. I had no idea, you know, he's just really very avant-garde. So, but for Laura's dress, the green dress, I was thinking about mermaid. And so she came out, and she's so beautiful anyway. And she's modeling that green dress with the shawl. And I'm talking about the Little Mermaid because it was some anniversary for the Little Mermaid movie too. And one of the members in the audience hollered out, "Well, where's her prince?" And about that, and so Eric was scheduled to come out next, and so Eric came out then, you know, and he's so dramatic and put on a whole show, bowing to her and all this stuff. So I think all of us, the models, had more fun than the audience. I think it was so much fun.
It is fun, and I think that I mean, it's good, and you have that personality where I think that everybody could have fun and enjoy themselves, in a
Oh, thank
fashion show.
you. Thank you.
And of course, I enjoyed participating, as well as Julian definitely enjoyed participating as the little artist. I hope that he becomes follows the passion of art as well. So
Oh, he was so adorable. When y'all walked down the runway and he got to the end of the runway, and I had given him the little palette with fibers and the brush, and he started painting the air, and I mean, he just stole the audience's heart. He was
oh, yeah.
incredible. He was
He's good.
And just adorable too.
Oh, well, thank you.
3
I
years
appreciate
old.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Now he's 7 and still
Oh,
doing art, and we're very proud of him. So
tell him, hey.
I will. So you talked a little bit about your inspiration. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What you find inspiring, and talk a little bit about your studio?
Sure. And so if you're looking at my studio, I was lucky enough to get this huge work table, which doesn't usually look this cleaned off, but I'm in between projects now because I just finished that book. And so that's where all the work gets done. It's big enough I can make a whole quilt on it. I'm known for quick and easy. I don't have a lot of patience for big, huge, time-consuming things. And so usually one end, if I've got that cleaned off, I can work on there. Nature inspires me. I can look out the window, the back window. I can see my garden and my flowers. I can look out over my sewing machine. When I was making all those face masks this summer, I had a great view of my bird feeder, and there was a little nest of birds nesting in the bush right there in front of my sewing machine. So I was sewing all day those face masks, but I could watch the birds and the squirrels come and eat, and so that was nice. So nature and wildlife in general, and classical art too. I love classical art, Monet and Van Gogh and all the Renaissance.
That's nice.
All of those.
That's nice. You can kind of put those things into your artwork.
Yeah, it's fun.
It does show through. I have to say, I can see your inspiration through your pieces for sure.
Thank you, Diana. Thank
Sure.
you.
Well, so there's one thing maybe that's an interesting fact about yourself that not many people know.
Oh, and so if you're on my Facebook, you definitely know, because it's hard to hide. But I'm a new grandma. My little grandson Carter, my first grandbaby, just turned 8 months old, and so he's definitely been an inspiration. You'll see when my new book for Leisure Arts comes out this spring, you'll see little Carter inspired things all in there. Simple sewing, and and so he likes panda bears, and so I did this, and I gave him the sloth for Christmas though, because he really liked the sloth. And then he was kind of an inspiration for this little quilt too. So my new designs have sort of a different feel, quick and easy, but they definitely have some kids inspiration in there.
Well, Carter is so adorable.
Thank you. He has wild hair too.
Yes, it must be the family trait.
He's precious. He's a very healthy, happy baby. So they feel very blessed. I know.
Oh, well, that is very good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, Vickie, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It was so great to talk to you.
Thank
and
you.
We can't wait to see your class coming up in February.
Yes,
Again, it's the
excited.
Dimensional Wool Flowers with Vickie Clontz on Thursday, February 24th. And if you want to register, you can go to www.quiltfest.com and just click on Vickie's name, and you can sign up there. Vickie, is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience before we go?
Well, if we had another hour, I would love to, but since we don't, I guess hopefully that covered enough.
I think so. I think it was great. We got to learn a little bit about your background and about your business and about your workshop. hopefully you and I will see each other in person again soon at a show, and maybe, do another fashion show.
Yay, that'd be great. I'd love
Uh,
to do that. Thank
all
you.
right.
Thank you for having me, Diana. Been
Thank you.
fun
Thank you.
visiting.
Everybody, before I sign off, I just wanted to touch on a little bit about what Michael said today in his earlier morning message. First of all, thank you. Thank you to everyone at Mancuso. We've all been working really hard and trying to, bring some fun into, these challenging times. And, I love what I do. I connect, quilt instructors with art and artists with the students. And, when I've met some really great artists and students at this show, and I just really, that makes it all worthwhile. So I hope that you will join us this coming months at our festivals. We surely will love to see you there. And thank you so much. David will be back at 3:15 with an interview with Sobatique's Diane and Bruce. And then he'll be back again at 7 p.m. With his thank you message. Thank you, everybody.